Guys, welcome to part 3 of this 10x10, 50 kilo, $5,000 monster. Just kind of ignore what's going on in the background there. This is future me, and I had a little problem with it. Problem was around there, it's fixed, but don't panic. I did finish it in this video, 90% finished it in this video. Took it out for a run and it was awesome. If you've not seen part 1 or part 2, you can go back and watch them. If you don't want to go back and watch them, here's a tiny catch up. In part 1, I built the chassis to a point where it was rolling, and looking back, it was actually a pretty easy build. It was just time consuming because, well, everything was like times 10. Then part 2 was a little bit more fun as I actually got to drive it. The kit comes with 2 brushed motors, but I decided to fit some brushless ones instead. So I've got 2 4062 1650 kV motors powering this thing, paired with a couple of 150 amp ESCs. So 2 big brushless motors on a crazy belt driven setup, going for a 2-speed gearbox to all 10 wheels, which is pretty crazy. And to turn them giant wheels, I've got 2 100 kilo 5th scale servos, and they weren't cheap, but they seem to be doing the job at the moment. Oh man, yes. That's so cool. Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. I mean, it's one way to get around the workshop, isn't it? So on to part 3, and well, I don't know where to start really. I'll tell you what, I'll get the excuses out of the way first. So the weather since part 2 has been pretty much terrible every day. It's been really cold, and the majority of this part of the build is painting, which is not easy to do when the temperatures are in single figures. Big open space in my workshop, so it's quite hard to warm up. But I did find a short-term solution. Because it's quite difficult to get this whole place warm, I've made a makeshift paint booth. Obviously I could paint in here, quite warm in here, but I don't want to get like paint dust and stuff over everything. So I had this genius idea to get my gazebo. Got some lights in here. Ooh. And it's toasty warm. Radiator each side, paint table that I can get all the way around. So it just means that the paint's actually going to go on properly. There's nothing worse than trying to paint in cold weather. It just, quite often if you paint and it's too cold, it just won't stick. Or you have to wait ages for it to dry. So hopefully this is going to speed the process up a little bit. So while we're waiting for the primer to dry before I can put on the actual paint, got a few bits to fit to the chassis. Big old rear bumper to go on there. And it looks pretty easy. That just goes on there like that, and then the tubes slot through and clamp up at the end, I think. That is a solid rear bumper. So nearly all of this part of the build was paint, and I mean there was lots of it. I've not worked out the exact cost of the paint, but it was a fair bit. And in between various layers of primer and paint, I was slowly putting together all the other parts. And it was going to quickly become apparent that painting all these parts first was going to cause me a bit of a headache later on in the build. So before I paint over this nice red and yellow paint scheme, let's have a quick chat about what I'm doing. So this design is actually off the original render, which I showed you in the first video when this was created like 5 years ago. It was this red with this yellow stripe, and it comes from the original like Soviet train, I believe. There was red and yellow, or like a red and goldy yellow, and there was also a green and yellow as well. So that's why I've gone with that original colour. But I'm painting over it satin black because I'm hoping to go for that like weathered Mad Max look. So what I want is this to kind of show through the satin black. I'm going to rub some areas off as well, and I'm hoping it will look good. It was actually also a suggestion from someone in the comments. I mean, I'd already had a kind of similar idea, but there was one or maybe two comments that suggested this. Just doing the wheel covers. I painted them like a wheel steel, so painted them with that, and then I've given them a light dusting of satin black, and it kind of gives it that dirty metal look. And then I'm going to weather it a little bit, maybe add a little bit of rust to the wheel nuts. Hopefully it will come out decent. So I'm either going to completely ruin this, or it is going to turn out just how I imagined. I think it's actually going to look pretty good. I'm not going to put any more on that. Once that's dried and when it's in the light, you're definitely just going to get a little bit of that original colour through. So I'll probably go over at the end the bits and pieces about this kit that I wasn't a fan of, but this is probably my biggest problem with this kit and the reason it takes so long. You've got so many parts that need gluing on. Once you've painted it, you can't put glue on paint. I've been using this specific Tamiya cement. I've also got this one. And I have built kits and stuff before and glued paint on paint, and I know that it does cause a few issues and pulls the paint off. But on this thing, because of some of the size of some of the stuff you have to glue on, look at that, look, where I tried to put that on, it just slipped down and it just pulled all the paint off. Luckily, I'm weathering it, so it's not a problem, but I can imagine if you wanted to do like a really clean paint job on this, you basically have to put everything on unpainted, then mask it all up and paint it separately. I mean, maybe that is the way that you do it. But anyway, here's the thing. This big like bumper bar with all this metal on it, quite weighty, just glues on with friction. There's nothing locating it, there's no screws, it just glues on. That just glues on, nothing to locate it. That's got the tiniest little locator there, and then you have to stick the corners. They're probably going to pull up as well. But then you have these little like grab handles that are just a small bit of trim to add, and they slot into holes. So you dab a little bit of glue on and they slot in and they stay there. But then you got big stuff like this that just has to glue on. Like, it would have been so easy to put like some little dowels on that so it pushes in. It's mad. The same as these little bits here, which are going to fix the body on that base plate. They're just glued on. I can imagine that some of them are going to pull off as soon as you start screwing it on. Anyway, that's my biggest issue at the moment with this. I'm going to carry on and I'll see at the end for some more gripes. So once I'd stopped sulking about being a model building newbie, I got to work on the electronics. Plenty of circuit boards and plenty of cables, like loads of cables. Luckily, I've got a few years experience in this field, so I didn't find it too difficult. And along with all the circuit boards and cables were a couple of hydraulic pumps. Pretty straightforward to make, and you'll find out very soon, a little less straightforward to actually make it all work. Page 119 of 134. I'm finally getting somewhere. It's been weeks. It's probably better to say hours, because I haven't been doing this solid every day for weeks. I've been doing bits and pieces here and there, but we're finally getting there. I can see the finish line, and this is one of the biggest things to do. I've started doing a little bit of weathering on this one, unweathered one. It actually looks quite nice unweathered, but with the cab and stuff, I think it'd tie in nicely. But these are the cannons. Just about to start linking up the hydraulic lines. Just got to attach them there into the pumps. But I need to sort the cabling out. Then I think there's a little bit more painting to do. And then a bit, well, it's not that I'm not looking forward to doing it. I just think it's going to be a pain, is bleeding the hydraulic system and making sure it doesn't leak and make sure it works. I'm so happy this is the last bit now. I bought this back in January and we're at the end of May now. So it's just taken a lot longer than I thought to get it all finished. Look at how detailed they are. So much detail in there. They got these hydraulic rams here which will lift them. They got a motor in there which will pivot. I think it does 360 degrees, but I'm just hoping that we can get the hydraulics working. But
2,000 years later.
So I've been doing this now for I've done about 3 hours yesterday, and I'm probably into hour number 2 today, just trying to get this system bled, just to get the hydraulic fluid in. So you've got the pipe that goes in to the first pump. You've obviously got one pump for that side, then you've got one for this side. So you've got this where you feed it in, and then just under there, that's the pipe that comes out. So pinching that as it's pushing the fluid through, then letting go of that,
pinching that one when it's drawing the fluid in, so it only draws it in from like the reservoir or the tank. I'm using thin shock oil, and then it comes out of the pistons here, and then you've got like non-return valves there, so it doesn't let any air back in. It just will not work. I'm now using like a mountain bike brake bleeding kit, and I've adapted it so it fits, just to add a little bit of pressure to it, to sort of pressure feed it. I've also tried doing it like vacuum, like sucking it through the other way. I've put so much fluid in here. I've lost so much as well. There's oil everywhere. It's making me very grumpy. So I've now spent another half an hour doing it. So that's now holding itself up on the pressure of that hide oil or shock oil. It always goes down fine. It's going back up that it just doesn't move. So that's all the way down. The piston will go all the way around, and then it'll start pumping fluid in. Is it going to go up? Oh, that's it. That's as far as it goes. Oh man, I don't understand how to do it. It's not leaking anywhere either. There's no leak. Wow, there you go. Can't get it up. So pushing the hydraulics to one side for now. I just went about getting all the cabling routed through, and like I said, there's a lot of cable, and then putting the top plate on, which was actually a little bit more fiddly than I thought it would be. Finally, I can see some light at what feels like the world's longest tunnel. Now, if we just ignore the fact that I've not quite managed to get the rear guns or cannons or artillery, whatever you want to call them. I think they're artillery guns, aren't they? I've not managed to get the hydraulics in there and get it working properly. As you saw, I was getting a little bit annoyed with it. I have made a little change. Someone mentioned on one of the groups, I think, that supplied stuff wasn't all that good. So I bought this. And when I was doing it, I had a quick look underneath when the pump was working. And these pipes were expanding slightly. I think I might have a photo actually of one that's got fluid in it and one that's empty. So I'm not sure how much it was expanding, but it might have just been enough to not put any pressure in it to lift this up, because the pipes that are supplied are quite rigid. They're almost rock hard. So I've changed them over to the supplied ones. I've not taken all this apart yet, but it's got some of the softer ones that I put in there, but they're only small, so it might not make a difference. But I've decided to leave that till almost right at the end. I want to get this finished. So top part's on, wired it all in, and all the wiring goes, I've tried to do it neat, and going down both sides, and then it comes under and then goes into the back of these. I got one ESC and the receiver in this side, and then in this side I've just got the other ESC, and I've just got a few little wires and the sound unit that I'm not sure I'm going to use yet because I don't know how it's going to sound. So I'll maybe change that to an ESS dual or something. Started doing a little bit of weathering. I've got a bit more to do. But again, once I've finished it all and it's all together, then I'm going to go around my brushes. Might get the airbrush out, get a bit of sandpaper and stuff and weather it up. But as well as the wiring, I've just got to put this on. It goes on the front there. Then we've got the battery boxes, which are like ammo crates, and the wheel covers, and that's it. So I'm going to get all the last little bits done, and then we'll look at it all functioning, and I'll tell you why I've changed from this Radio Master to this Fly Sky. Look at this thing. It looks so good. And it's massive. It is so big. I bought these little axle stands just as a bit of a scale accessory, but they've actually come in quite handy. I've got all 6 of them on, and it's pretty sturdy. I'm not sure I trust it too much, but it's good enough for giving it a quick test. So the BEC is in there with the associated wiring. I need to neaten it up a bit, but that goes in that one. And then I've got a battery in each of these. Just about fits in there. A couple of 2S LiPos for this test. So first time switching this on with it all complete like this. Hopefully it's going to work. So transmitter on. Talk about this in a minute, but I'm just going to make sure. Oh no, we've got no front steering. Right, so we've got throttle, which is good. We've got no front steering though. I'll have to have a look at that. It might be, cable might not be in properly there or on the BC. Guns, obviously the guns don't go up and down at the moment, but as you can see, they go all the way around, 360 degrees. Nice and smooth. And then the gun on the top, that's done by these. That one and that one. Again, 360 degrees. I don't know whether it's meant to have engine sounds. All we've got at the moment is a horn. I'm going to add a ESS sound kit to it because I think they just sound better anyway. It's only a small speaker on this, so that's something I have got to do. Then lights is this switch, like that, and then we get them ones, and then wow, they're bright, and then the last one should be, there we go. That looks so good. That is really bright as well. I've not put all the lights on. There's lights that go on here and I've missed the rear lights. I will put the rear lights on. I'll probably just have them. This is empty, this one. This one's empty. I'll probably put them on a separate battery and just switch them on from there because I've put it all together now and I'd have to try and run cable all the way to the front. So I'm probably going to cheat and put the rear lights just on a switch. So I'm going to have to work out why we've not got steering. Right, I found the problem. Look at all that. That all goes in there just about. I found the issue. I just had the servo input the wrong way around on this, like, I don't know what you call that. Is it like a distribution board that comes from the BC? I've not sorted out any four-wheel steer modes yet, but what I want to do is be able to independently move the rear ones. So rather than physically switching between like crab steer and front wheel and rear wheel, if I can make the rear independent. So I don't know, it might be better to have that independent, but I'll give it a try. So before I attempt to get it off that workbench, which I've been dreading because it now weighs, well, it's ridiculous. And it's not that 50 kilos or 100 and something pound is like too much to lift. It's just awkward. Anyway, the reason I've swapped to this, so this is a Fly Sky, is it called a Paladin EV something 18, I think. 18 channels. You got various switches, controls, buttons. Even these control sticks you can turn, and they've got little buttons on the top. Loads of functions on it. Used for like JCBs and trucks and all sorts. But I went all in to get that because as much as this would probably do most of the functions, if not more than that, loads of programmability and stuff, I was just struggling to actually get all the channels working how I wanted to. I mean, if you'd seen in part 2, I think it was part 2, I set up a switch to do the four-wheel steer modes, and that took me hours to do that. And then I set up some modes. I spent a lot of time doing it. Then when I switched it back on again a few days later, it had wiped most of them. So I don't know whether I just hadn't saved it or I'd done something, but I just got frustrated with it. Very good transmitter, just I wanted something a little bit easier to use. And although this has still got massive amounts of functionality, the basics of it is relatively easy. You just select the channel you want and it works. So I will do a little bit more work on it to try and get the four-wheel steer working properly. But for the time being, it's functioning. Now, a bit I've been dreading is trying to get it off of this bench without damaging it, dropping it, hurting myself. It's going to be a pain. I've got a solution for getting it in and out of the car or on the back of the truck. I just need to be careful getting it off this workbench. It's too long to lift like that. You're just never going to be able to lift. You're never going to be able to lift it at that stretch. Nope, that ain't going to work. Oh my word. Oh my word, that is so heavy. Oh. That is so awkward to lift. At least now it's on the floor, I can drive it out. Oh, first drive. Man, this thing's so big. I'm a bit worried about the high grip of the carpet. All these axles are locked, so it's so cool to be driving it. Here it comes. Look at it. Yes.
Beast. So I suppose we best go and give it a little shakedown. So it took me a while to find somewhere to actually bring it, but the first problem I can see is that front like cow guard or whatever it is, that is gonna have to go, I think, for anything off-road. Lights, we ain't got no lights. Hang on, lights, let's put my lights on, there we go. I've already buried it a couple of times, it is not great. Oh, look how low it sits, look. Just sits so low. Probably bent it already. Yeah, you're definitely not gonna be able to run that on anything more than this sort of surface. Look at it though, it looks so cool. Look how big it is. Switch to one-handed control. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy, but we'll make it work. It's in low gear at the moment. Don't think I'll ever need high gear. And another thing, no drag brake, so that's definitely going to be an ESC upgrade at some point, I reckon. This is definitely the ultimate trail truck flex though, isn't it? Just out on the trail with my 50 kilo land train. Not the best weather today, it's a little bit rainy, but we'll make do. Look, there you go, just dug up a load of mud. It is crabbing a little bit with that steering, but... Oh, I just turned my guns. Oh. I might try and lift that up now, actually, because, yeah, look, it's just ripping everything apart. Look what it just pulled out. Let's just get up here and then I'll see if I could do something with it. Oh. Because with it like that, you've definitely got no approach angle. Right, I've removed the whole thing, so hopefully we should be able to do at least a little bit of off-roading. Come on. Nice. Not sure I want to go through the mud just yet. Well, maybe a little bit. Oh, that's good. It's not that soft anyway. We're good. Such a beast. Definitely way better with that thing off the front. 100%. So it's a bit of a design flaw really, isn't it? It looks good, but it absolutely has no practical use apart from ripping up turf. Oh, what just happened? Did it slip out of gear? Oh, what? Something has broken, which means I got to drag this thing back, I think. It just went click and then rolled. Listen. Oh, no way. The walk of shame. Do need to keep steering it though. I will see you back at the workshop and we'll see what we've broken. So, unfortunately, no load on it. Kind of goes. Let's hold the wheels and I don't know if you can focus down there. So motors are spinning. There's something in the gearbox that is broken. Hopefully it's just a pin or something, otherwise this is going to be an absolute pain. And speaking of absolute pains, getting that off once it's all fixed on there is also an absolute pain. This is definitely not easy to do maintenance on. And that was its first run, so not looking great at the moment. Oh, I'm getting flashbacks from about 2 or 3 months ago when I only had a rolling chassis. Right, let's find out together what the problem is. I was hoping it was just going to be a drive shaft or something, but no such luck. Oh, at least I got one run out of it and I can finish this video. Alright, here we go. Something there maybe. Aha, we've snapped a little pin. Is it like a dowel? Where's that come from? So it's not this, I don't think. It's come from this one.
What's broken then?
Oh man, I'll have to look in the instructions.
So that is part 3 finished. I appreciate your patience. I know a lot of you have been waiting a long time to see this thing actually built and running.
So that gearbox issue is all now fixed.
Luckily I had some spares, so actually it was a relatively easy fix, even though it was very time consuming. I think one of the reasons that it broke was because it's not got a drag brake. I was kind of bouncing the throttle a little bit to keep it on that incline to change the camera shot. And because of the amount of torque and stuff it's got, that bouncing on the throttle was enough just to shear it. Either that or it is a weak point, and I guess we'll find out. I have bought 2 new ESCs though. I bought some Quick Run BL8 BL150 or something because they've got a drag brake. So I think if I could incorporate a drag brake, I wouldn't need to hold that throttle to try and stop it rolling. It might have stopped that. But you'll see that in the next video of it that I do. I'm taking it to an event called East, which I'm going to in about 10 days. So I'm doing a few little bits that I've mentioned in this video before I go there. So that's why this is in bits. I want to try and get it. It's never going to be 100% complete, I don't think. But I've now fitted the rear lights in there. Got them all routed through. And then I just got all this mess to sort out and all the mess in there. I'm leaving the big thing off the front, but I'm gonna put black and yellow stripes on this because I think that'll probably look quite good. And then I'm gonna try and sort out the hydraulics, and we're gonna get some decent sound in there as well, hopefully. I think I said earlier on that I was gonna go over some of the stuff I didn't like about this in this video. I've mentioned a bit of it as we've gone along, which is obviously the gluing issue, which is not just an issue with this. It was also me getting a little ahead of myself painting when some of it I probably didn't need to. I think one of the other things, which is probably quite obvious, is once you've built it, if you have any issues, as you can see, you have to take the whole thing apart, and it's a bit of a pain. The way this is connected onto there with just these little tabs, I don't like that. I think they could have made a better job of that. The big bowl bar thing at the front as well, poor design, it sits way too low. All this is just glued on, which I'm sure at some point it's going to all fall off, so I'm going to have to take a pot of glue with me when I'm out on the trail. And because I haven't got the hydraulics fully working yet, I don't know how well it's going to do. And probably the final thing, look at the mess on here. Lots of stuff left over, but there's also a few bits of hardware that I didn't have enough of. And on some of the instructions, stuff was labelled wrong. So if you are considering buying one, just be prepared to get a little bit frustrated with things not being labelled right or not having some of the hardware you need. It wasn't loads, but there was just a few bits that I had to kind of improvise or use other stuff. All in all, this thing's awesome. Hopefully it's not going to break too much because I don't fancy taking it apart. But cheers for watching. As long as I can get it back together and it works okay, there'll be another video where we got sound and hopefully the artillery guns actually raise up, and we may go for a little bit of mud and give it a little bit more of a test.